All right. Chapter 5, test review. First section starts with vocab. Okay, yes, I will leave the key up there. Okay, or the word bank. Word bank will stay up there so you can have that. So, number 1, it says line JK. What is happening? What's this line doing?
Splitting the line in half.
Splitting the other side in half. Where is it coming from?
The vertex.
Vertex. So what is it called coming from a vertex, splitting the opposite side in half? Median. Okay, so number 1 is a median. Number 2, line PM. What is happening?
Splitting the line in half.
Splitting the side in half and
Making an angle.
creating a right angle. So if it's creating a right angle and splitting a side in half, what's that called? Perpendicular bisector. Good. Okay. Point Z. Number 3, point Z. What is happening at point Z?
It's the middle of everything.
What'd you say?
Everything's going to it.
Everything goes through it, right? That's where they meet. What does it mean to meet?
Point to concurrency.
Concurrent means meet, but the point where they meet is the point of concurrency. Okay, so point Z is the point of concurrency or the point where they meet. Okay? Okay. Number 4, AB. I will have these labeled on the test. AB. What is happening with line AB?
Perpendicular with the line.
Creates a right angle. Where is it coming from? Vertex. So if it's coming from a vertex creating a 90-degree angle, what's that called? Altitude. Okay, number 5, talking about the corners of the triangle. What are those called? Vertices. Or if you call one of them a vertex. Number 6, circle C. What is the circle called if it's outside the triangle? Circumscribed circle is outside of the triangle. Okay, number 7, line PM. What is PM doing? Splits the angle in half. So what is that called? Angle bisector. Remember, bisector means splitting something in half. And number 8, circle C. This circle's inside the inside the triangle. What's that called? Inscribed circle. Good. Inscribed inside.
Can we just put inscribed? Or do we have to put inscribed?
Just write the whole vocab word. Okay. Any questions about the vocab? Number 9, getting into the actual math concepts of the test. Okay. It's asking which statement is true. So you're just going to go through a process of elimination. Okay, so A, LOM. Remember, how do I know which angle it's talking about? In line with the middle. So LOM and NOM. It says LOM is less than NOM. Is that true or false? LOM is across from 8. NOM is across from 7.
It's false.
It is false, okay, because LOM has the greater side, so that means it should be greater angle, okay? So we know A is not true. B, MLO and NMO. What's this symbol mean?
They're the same.
Congruent, right? Equal. So are they the same?
Yes.
What's the reasoning?
They're both 9.
They're both across from 9, so B is true. Even though B is true, I still want to go through and talk about the other ones and why they're not true. MLO and LMO. It says MLO is less than NMO. Is that true or false?
False.
Because
They're both the same.
should be equal. Yep, so we know C is not true. Last one, D. MLO is, what's that mean again?
The same.
MON. Are they equal to each other?
False.
False. Any questions on number 9?
False.
Obviously, once you find one to be true, do you have to check all the other ones?
No.
No. Okay. Number 10 and 11. Okay. EM is here. We know EM is 6. What else do we know about EM? It's 2/3. Have we had issues deciding which one's 2/3 or 1/3, or we've been good so far? Okay. If you have that issue tomorrow, please ask me. Okay? And double check. So we want to set up an equation. Use what you're given. We know EM is 6, and we know it's 2/3 of the whole thing. So what's an equation that I can set up? We know EM is 6, right? What else do we know? 6 is what? 2/3 of what? EL. Yep, EL is the whole thing, so we know 6 is 2/3 of EL. How do I solve that for EL? By? We want to multiply by 3. We want to multiply that denominator to get rid of it. So multiply by 3. What's 3 times 6? 18. Okay, what a lot of people are doing is they're canceling this and they're calling this EL. Can I do that? No. What cancels out? The 3's cancel out. We still have 2. So 2 EL. Last step. Divide by 2. EL equals 9. How many answers should you have on both of these? 2. Once you find one of them, how can you find the other one? Turns into a subtraction problem. Okay, so the whole thing is 9. Part of it is 6. So we can take 9 minus 6, which is 3. So ML equals 3. Let's look at number 11. Number 11 is talking about DM, which is here. We know DM is 8. What else do we know about DM?
That is bigger.
Which fraction, right? Yep, 2/3 of the whole thing. So make an equation with what you're given. We know DM is 8. We also know DM is 2/3. So what's an equation I can make? We know, yep, go for it. 2/3 of what? Yep, why are we picking DK? Because that's the whole thing. How do I solve that for DK? Yep. Again, 3 times 8 is 24. What cancels out on the fraction?
3.
Yep, so we're still left with 2 DK. What do I do from here? Divide by 2. DK equals 12. And again, once I find the first one, how can I find the second one? Subtraction problem. 12 minus 8 is 4. So MK is 4. Okay, I want to show you something that may show up on your test. Let's say we wanted to find DM. We didn't know what DM was. It gave us DK. So we know DK is 12. So pretend we don't know what this is. We're trying to look for that. Okay, so this whole thing right here is 12. And we're trying to find DM. Well, what do I know about DM?
Divided by 3.
DM is 2/3 of DK. So to make that as an equation, we know DM equals 2/3 of what? Of 12, right? Of DK, so we can put 12 here. So then I would just multiply these together. What's 2 times 12? Divided by 3. So that's how we would get DM to be 8. Okay, so if they give you the whole thing, you're going to end up multiplying, depending on what fraction they're looking for. Okay, is the second part, would it still be a subtraction problem? Yes, it would still turn into a subtraction problem. You would still take 12 minus 8 to get MK. Okay. Any questions on that section? Number 12, moving on. We want to know the possible values for x. What did I always tell you to start with to make it a little easier on you? Start with the equation. Start with the algebra we're looking at. So starting with x minus 13, ask yourself, is that an angle or is that a side? It's an angle, so do we want to compare it to another angle or compare it to a side? Compare it to another angle. What's the other angle? 75. So we want to compare x minus 13 to 75. Am I going to put equal to here? No. Okay. Is x minus 13 greater than or less than 75? It's less than, okay? Again, because it is across from the smaller side. So that means that angle is also smaller. How do I solve from here? Add 13. So I have x is less than 88. And that's all I need for that one. That one's not a compound inequality. Okay? Biggest thing, making sure you're comparing an angle to an angle or a side to a side depending on what they give you. Okay? Any questions on the front side of the review? On to the back side, number 13 and 14. Looking at the same diagram, it wants us to find y. What do we do? Why can we set them equal to each other? Why can we assume that? Okay, bottom two angles are equal, so what do you think this line is in the middle? E.g., what is that? Angle bisector. Yep. Since these two sides right here are congruent, we can assume that the equidistant there, those angles are congruent to each other. Okay? So that is one way we can assume that those two equations are equal, or those angles are equal. Do we know another reason why we can say that? That would be for these sides, or those angles. What do we know about this middle side if I split up the triangle? Would this be congruent to itself?
Yeah.
So do we see side, side, side happening?
Yeah.
Remember, if we have one of those satisfy, what does that mean for everything else?
It's all equal.
Everything else is equal to itself, right? So there are a couple ways of why you can assume those are equal to each other. So we can set them equal to each other. So 3y plus 4 equals 5y minus 10. How do I solve? Okay. Again, doesn't matter how you solve. No. So subtract 5y. Yep. So negative 2y equals negative 14. What do I do from here? Divide. What do you get for y?
7.
Yes. Okay. 13 only wanted the value of y, so we can stop there. Number 14. A lot of us see, oh, it wants the measure of an angle, and they just assume it's one of these. Okay, but what do you have to be careful with? It wants the whole thing. Okay, this whole angle right here, it wants that whole measure. How do I figure that out? There are a couple ways.
Plug it in, right?
Right, you can plug it into one, because what do you know about both of these? They're the same. So if you plug into one, you could just double it. What else could you do? Add the equations together, right? So if I did it that way, again, it doesn't matter way. 3 times 7 plus 4 plus 5 times 7 minus 10. So what's 3 times 7? 21. 5 times 7? 35. So what did you guys get for your final measurement? Should get 50. Okay. If you did it the other way and plugged it into one, what did you get for one of them? 25. So you know the other one's also 25. You just add them together. Okay. Again, a lot of different ways you can do these problems. Okay. Does not matter which way. Number 15. Again, more ways you can do this problem. I'm going to show you a couple. Okay. Right now, it shows you an inequality of measure of ABH is greater than GHB. So we're talking about an angle here. Here's ABH. I'm going to put numbers with it because some of us are more numerical. Okay. I'm just going to call that angle value of 100. Okay. What is a number that is less than 100 that I can use for the other angle? 30, right? Doesn't matter. Okay. What side is across from 100? AH is across from 100, so I'm just going to put 100 there. What side's across from 30?
GB.
GB. So which side is bigger, AH or GB? AH is greater than GB. Because remember, the bigger angle is across from the bigger side. Smaller angles across from the smaller side. It all goes hand in hand. Does anyone do it a different way? Did anybody just look at this? How'd you do it?
Well, if the is bigger, and that means the mouth is bigger on ABH.
Right. Here's AH. Here's GB. Will this inequality still stay true? Yes. Okay. So you can use the picture or you can use the inequality to give you your answer. Okay. So C is the correct answer on that one. Number 16, it says a triangular pennant has sides of length 23 and 31. What are the possible lengths for the third side? Again, some of you are more visual. Draw yourself a picture so you can envision what's happening. So 23 and 31 for X. We want to find the range of X. How do I write my answer for these? What's it going to look like?
Number X number.
Compound inequality, right? So what is an inequality that I know has to be true? What do I know about those two? 23 and X. Right, 23 plus X has to be greater than 31. I'm going to ask you, why did I pick 23 and not 31 for this? 31's already bigger, right? So do we even need to check that it's greater than 23? No, we already know that's true. So how do I solve that inequality? Yep. To get X by itself. So I have X is greater than 8. So we know X has to be greater than 8. What else do we need to know? How big it can get, right? 23 and 31, what does it have to be in regards to X? Greater than or less than? Has to be greater than X. So what's 23 plus 31? 54 has to be greater than X, or X has to be less than 54. So you have both of your inequalities. So now you just have to write it as a compound inequality. How do we write it? Remember, here's your smaller number. Here's X. Here's your bigger number. Okay. We know X has to be greater than 8. And we know X has to be less than 54. Are these signs right here ever going to change direction? No. As long as you have your smaller number on the left and your bigger number on the right. Okay, so what we know is that X has to be in between 8 and 54 for that triangle to be true. Okay.
What if X is the biggest number?
Okay, number 17. Couple different things going on here. It gives us the value of PQ and PS and wants us to find the radius of the inscribed circle. Okay, so first thing I want to focus on is what we know about PQ and PS together. What is going on in the picture? Do we have perpendicular bisectors or do we have angle bisectors? Bless you.
Looks like both. Perpendicular.
Looking at these perpendicular lines, can we say that they're bisectors? Why not? Right, it doesn't say anything about those sides being split in half, right? What about these angles? Those are split in half, so these right here are angle bisectors. What is that point in the middle called? Point of concurrency, okay? All of those angle bisectors meet at a point. So what does that mean for all of our perpendicular lines? They're equal to each other. Again, that's from that theorem up on the board, concurrency of angle bisectors. Okay. So what do we know about the relationship of PQ and PS? Our lines right here. What do we know about them? They're the same, so how can we set up an equation to find y? Set them equal. So we have negative 2y plus 15 equals 3y plus 5. So now we just solve. What'd you guys end up getting for y? Y should be 2. A lot of us go like this. Are we done? No. Okay. Yes, we found y, which is very helpful. Okay, but we got the second half of the question to answer. Find the radius of the inscribed circle. First, start with inscribed circle. What is that? Inside or outside?
Inside.
Inside circle. Okay, now what is radius? It's half across the surface, right? So from the outside to the center, that's the radius. How can I find the value of that? Plug it in where? Right, does it matter which one? Nope, because we know they're equal to each other. So I'm just going to pick PS here. We have 3 times 2 plus 5. So we end up getting 11. That is the radius. Now, what if the test asked you for a diameter? You would double it, right? So what would my diameter be of this circle? It would be 22. Because we would just double our radius. Okay. Any questions over number 17? All right. Number 18. Can side lengths of 6, 15, and 12 make a triangle?
Yeah.
How do you know?
Because you add 12 and 6.
Right. Take your two smaller sides, add them together. 6 plus 12 is 18. What does this criteria have to be compared to the larger side? 18 has to be greater than the larger side. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yes. What a lot of people do, if they see this, what do you think they do?
Just 6.
Right. They add the first two numbers that they see. Can you do that?
Yeah.
You can do that, but are you guaranteed the right answer? No. Okay, not always. Another thing I want to talk about. If I had 18 and 18 here, can that make a triangle?
No.
No, because why?
They have to be
Right, it has to be greater than. It cannot be equal to. So that would not work. Has to be greater than. Okay. Okay, so looking at number 19. I changed A to be 0, 1. How many steps are there to finding the orthocenter?
3.
There are 3. Okay. What is step 1? Find the slopes. How many slopes do we have to find? 2. Doesn't matter which sides?
Nope.
No. I'm just going to stay consistent and pick AB and AC. So, here's x1, y1, x2, y2. What equation are we using? The m equals, right? Y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. What I saw a lot of us doing, okay, which will get us wrong right away, is we're flip-flopping this. Okay? Make sure y is on the top, because remember, slope is in the concept of rise over run. Okay, so make sure y is always on the top. So if I'm finding the slope of AB, what's my y2?
4.
4 minus 1 over 1 minus 0. So we get 3 over 1, which is 3. So now we do that same thing for AC. I'm going to switch my x2, y2. So my y2 is 4 minus 1 over negative 3 minus 0. So we get 3 over negative 3, which is negative 1. Am I done with step 1? I am done with step 1. A lot of you do the perpendicular step of step 1. That's totally fine. Okay. So step 2, what happens here? Writing the equations, right? How many equations am I going to have? 2. Remember, these are the y equals mx plus b equations. What is a important part of this step? We want perpendicular. Okay. So what does that mean? If I start with AB, what is my perpendicular slope if my original slope was 3? Right. What's happening again to get that? Flipping the fraction and switching the sign. Okay, so last thing we need is the coordinate. Here's AB. What's the opposite coordinate of AB? C. Again, if I drew a triangle, the reasoning for that, here's my ABC vertices. Opposite of AB is C. Okay? So now that I have all of my information, I use that equation. So what's my y value? 4. 4 equals negative 1/3 times, what's my x value? Negative 3 plus b. What happens to that fraction? 3's cancel. What happens to the negatives? They become positive, right? So I have 4 equals 1 plus b from here. Yep. So I get 3 equals b. Don't forget to write the equation once you get to this step. What's my equation? Yes. Am I done with step 2? No, gotta do the other one. So here's AC. What is my perpendicular slope if my original slope was -1?
1.
Right, do you agree? If I flip it, it's still 1 over 1? Yep, so all I'm doing is switching the sign. What is opposite of AC? B. Yep, so we're going to use coordinate B, which was 1, 4. So do the same process we did for AB. What's my Y value?
4.
4 equals 1 times 1 plus B. 1 times 1? 1. From here? -1. So we have 3 equals B. Some of us panicked. Is it okay that these are the same? Yes. Just a coincidence. It is okay that they're the same. So my equation for this side is y equals 1x plus 3. Are we done with step 2? Yes. Step 3 should be your favorite step because what's the only thing you really have to do?
Plug them in.
Setting them equal and plugging them in. Okay. Why can we set these two equations equal to each other?
They're both y.
Because they both equal y. Okay, so I'm going to take -1/3 x plus 3 equals x plus 3. So now it's just a big algebra problem. Whoa. How do I get rid of that fraction? Because I know we don't like fractions. Multiply by that denominator number. But what I do to 1, I have to do it to everything. What happens to that fraction? 3's cancel, so I'm left with -1x. 3 times 3? 9. 3 times x? 3 times 3. Yep. Now we just solve. I'm going to add x. So we have 9 equals 4x plus 9. What do I do from here? Subtract 9. A lot of us, what we did, we're like, oh, that cancels out, so I'm just left with 4x. Now I'm stuck. Okay. What am I forgetting? Right. You still have to have a placeholder because it's an equation. Okay. It's got to stay an equation the whole time. So if things cancel out like they did, just remember I need 0 as that placeholder. Okay. And now what's my last step to solve for x? Divide by 4. X equals, 0 divided by anything is just 0. How do I find y now? Because I have x, I need to find y.
Plug it in.
2.
Y equal x plus 3.
Right, doesn't matter which one I choose. No, because they both equal y. I would choose the one without a fraction. But what's nice is that it's 0. Okay, so we have y equals 0 plus 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. After you did all that work, what's the last thing you need to do? Write a coordinate, right? What's my coordinate? 0, 3. Done. Exclamation point, smiley face. Done. Okay. Any questions on number 19? Okay. Just remembering those steps. Okay. Do repetition. Okay. All right.